My name is Emma, and for a long time, I thought I was living the kind of love story people envy. My husband, Daniel, was charming, intelligent, and the kind of man who made everyone in a room turn to look at him. He was an architect, precise, composed, confident. I was a schoolteacher, emotional, idealistic, and maybe a little too trusting. When we got married, everyone said we were the perfect match. I believed them. Our house, our routines, our laughter over morning coffee. It all felt like the kind of forever I'd dreamed about since I was a little girl. But forever ended the night I found his phone buzzing at 2 a.m. Daniel was asleep beside me, his arm draped over my waist, breathing steady. The vibration didn't stop, so I reached for his phone, thinking it might be work. He'd been busy lately, staying late at the office more than usual. The screen lit up with a message from someone named R. It said, "Can't stop thinking about tonight. You were incredible." I froze. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. I read it again and again, praying I was misunderstanding something. But there was no misunderstanding words like tonight or incredible. For a full minute, I just stared at the phone, my hands trembling. Then, as if fate was mocking me, another message appeared. When will she find out? That was the moment my world cracked open. I didn't confront him right then. I couldn't. Instead, I slipped the phone back onto the nightstand, pretending to sleep while my mind screamed. Every sound, the ticking clock, his soft snore, felt like torture. By morning, I had a plan. When he woke up, smiling like nothing was wrong, and kissed me on the forehead before heading to work, I forced myself to smile back. I made coffee, packed his lunch, and waved him goodbye, just like every other day. But the moment the door closed, I dropped the act. I called in sick. Then I started digging. The first thing I did was check our shared laptop. Daniel wasn't careless. He kept most of his work stuff locked behind passwords, but his calendar wasn't. I saw it immediately. Tuesday, 6 p.m. Site meeting, Hotel Westview. There was no reason for him to meet clients in a hotel. I waited until that Tuesday, pretending everything was fine. I even cooked his favorite dinner, lasagna, that night before he left, telling me he'd try not to be too late. At 5:30 p.m., I was already parked across the street from Hotel Westview. I felt ridiculous at first, like one of those women in bad movies who follow their husbands in disguise. But as I sat there, my hands gripping the steering wheel, I kept thinking about those text messages. About R. About what incredible really meant. At 6:10, Daniel's black SUV pulled into the hotel parking lot. He got out, looking too sharp for a site meeting, freshly shaved, wearing the cologne I bought him for our anniversary. My stomach twisted. A few minutes later, a woman stepped out of a red car and walked straight toward him. She was tall, with dark hair cascading over her shoulders, dressed in a tight red dress that screamed not business. Daniel smiled when he saw her, the same smile he used to give me. Then he leaned in and kissed her cheek. I wanted to throw up. They walked inside together, arm in arm. That was all the confirmation I needed. I'd caught him. My husband, the man who promised me forever, was cheating on me. I sat there for almost half an hour, shaking, crying silently, watching couples enter and leave the hotel lobby. My chest hurt so badly that I thought I might faint. I didn't even know how to confront him. What do you say when the life you built is suddenly a lie? By the time I drove home, I had convinced myself I'd wait. I'd gather proof. I'd make him confess. When Daniel returned home later that night, I was sitting in the living room with a book I hadn't read a single line of. He kissed me goodnight and mumbled something about a long day. His shirt smelled faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Not yet. The next morning, I followed him again. This time, I kept my distance. He drove to an office building on the edge of town, not his firm's usual site. I watched as he met the same woman in the parking lot. They hugged. He handed her a small, brown envelope. She looked around nervously before taking it. Then they both disappeared inside the building. I took photos with my phone. Blurry, shaky, but enough to prove something was going on. That night, when Daniel got home, I decided to confront him, at least partially. I asked, "Who's R?" He froze for just a second. A flicker of panic crossed his face, but he recovered fast. He smiled. "R. You mean Rachel? She's the new project coordinator. Why? I tilted my head. You seem close. He laughed lightly, sitting beside me. Emma, come on. You're jealous over work texts now? Work texts usually don't say things like, you are incredible, I said quietly. His eyes went cold. You went through my phone? The tone. The accusation. Like I was the villain here. He got up, ran a hand through his hair, and sighed. Rachel was thanking me for helping her with the presentation, that's all. God, Emma, do you even trust me? I wanted to scream that I saw him at the hotel, that I saw the way he looked at her. But I didn't. Something in his tone, defensive, almost desperate, made me hold back. Maybe because part of me wanted to believe him. For the next few days, things got worse. He started coming home later. Sometimes, he wouldn't answer my calls at all. The warmth between us turned to ice. I barely recognized him anymore. Then one night, when he was in the shower, his phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't R. The message was from a number with no name. It said, if she finds out, everything falls apart. You know what's at stake. My breath caught. She? That meant me. And what's at stake? That didn't sound like an affair. It sounded like something far darker. I didn't know it then. But that text was the start of something I never could have imagined. Because Daniel wasn't just hiding a woman. He was hiding something that could destroy both of us. That night, I made a decision. I was going to uncover every secret Daniel was hiding, no matter how dangerous it turned out to be. After reading that message, I couldn't sleep a second that night. The words, if she finds out, everything falls apart, kept echoing in my mind like a broken record. Who was this person texting my husband? And what exactly was he hiding from me? By morning, I had turned into someone I barely recognized. I wasn't just a suspicious wife anymore. I was a detective in my own marriage. Every movement, every word Daniel spoke felt like a clue I needed to decode. At breakfast, he acted normal, humming softly as he buttered his toast. I wanted to grab his phone, shove it in his face, and demand answers. But instead, I smiled and poured him coffee. Big day ahead? I asked casually. He nodded. Yeah, huge project. Could be a game changer for the firm. A game changer. Maybe that was what the secret was about. Some illegal business deal? Something that could ruin his company? I told myself not to jump to conclusions, but deep down, I already felt it. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about survival. That afternoon, I decided to go through his study. It was the only room in the house he kept locked sometimes, claiming he needed privacy for work documents. But Daniel wasn't as careful as he thought. He often hid the spare key in a drawer near the kitchen. When I unlocked the door, my heart was pounding so loudly I could barely think straight. The room was immaculate, everything neatly arranged, his blueprints rolled up, files stacked perfectly. But something didn't feel right. On the far side of the desk, a black folder caught my attention. It didn't have his firm's logo like the others. Just a plain label that read, Private. I opened it. Inside were several photos. At first, I thought they were architectural shots, abandoned warehouses, old factories, broken fences. But then I noticed people in some of them. Men standing guard outside buildings. A few of the photos were taken from far away, like someone had been spying on them. And at the bottom of the pile, one photo made my blood run cold. It was Daniel, standing beside a man I didn't recognize, tall, muscular, wearing a dark coat. They were shaking hands outside one of those same warehouses. And written on the back of the photo in messy handwriting were the words, Payment confirmed. Next shipment due. I dropped the folder. Shipment? Payment? What the hell was Daniel involved in? I barely had time to think before I heard the front door open. Panic shot through me. I quickly shoved the folder back into the drawer, locked the study, and hurried to the kitchen, pretending to. That night, while Daniel showered, I decided to dig deeper. I took his phone again, this time determined not to back down. I went through every app, every hidden folder. And that's when I found a secure messaging app I'd never seen before. It required a passcode. I tried his birthday. No luck. Our anniversary. No luck. But when I entered my birthday, the app opened. Inside were dozens of messages with two different contacts, one saved as R, the other as just a number. The first few messages were normal, Or at least looked that way. Shipment confirmed. Coordinates received. Keep her out of it for now. But the later messages were worse. R. You promised this would be clean. Daniel. It will be, as long as no one talks. R. She's asking questions. Daniel. Then I'll handle her. I dropped the phone in shock. Handle her? Was he talking about me? My stomach twisted. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was trapped in some nightmare where the man I loved wasn't who I thought he was. When Daniel came out of the shower, I had to pretend again. My face hurt from forcing smiles. My heart ached from holding in fear. Later, when he fell asleep, I stared at him for a long time. The man lying next to me looked peaceful, innocent even. But now, I knew there was a darkness beneath that calm. The next morning, I called my best friend, Lena, and told her everything about the hotel, the photos, the messages. She was horrified. Emma, you need to get out of that house, she said. Whatever he's into, it's not just cheating. This sounds criminal. I can't leave yet, I whispered. I need to know the truth first. Lena sighed. Just be careful, okay? That evening, while Daniel was at work, I went to the warehouse I'd seen in those photos. It was on the outskirts of town, near an abandoned industrial area. I parked a few blocks away and walked. When I reached the building, I saw a light flickering inside through a broken window. Shadows moved behind the glass, 2, maybe 3 people. Then I heard voices. I crept closer, crouching behind a pile of old tires. Shipments delayed again, one voice said. Another, deeper one replied. He'd better fix it. The boss doesn't like mistakes. And then I heard it. Daniel's voice. I told you, it'll be ready in 2 days. No one's onto us. No one's onto us. My blood ran cold. He wasn't just cheating, he was involved in something illegal. Something dangerous. I stumbled back quietly, my mind spinning. What kind of man had I married? Suddenly, the sound of a door creaking open made me freeze. A flashlight beam cut through the darkness, sweeping across the ground. Someone was coming out. I ducked behind the tires again, heart pounding. I could see his silhouette now, Daniel. He stood there for a moment, scanning the area as if he sensed something. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. It's handled, he said. No one followed me. I held my breath, praying he wouldn't notice my car down the road. When he finally drove off, I exhaled shakily and ran back to my car. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely fit the key into the ignition. As I sped away, one thought consumed me. I had to find out what shipment meant before Daniel realized I was onto him. But what I didn't know was that he already did. The next morning, when I woke up, Daniel was gone, and so was my car. But on the kitchen counter, there was a single note in his handwriting that made my blood turn to ice. You shouldn't have gone there. When I saw that note, you shouldn't have gone there, I couldn't move. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. My hands trembled as I held the paper, rereading the same 5 words over and over, each time feeling them cut deeper. He knew. Daniel knew I'd followed him. And now, he'd taken my car. For a few terrifying seconds, I thought he might come back to confront me, or worse. My mind flooded with images of all those messages I'd read on his phone. Then I'll handle her. What if this was what he meant? I ran to the front window and peeked outside. His SUV was still gone, but everything felt wrong. Too quiet, too still. Even the birds outside seemed to have stopped singing. I knew I couldn't stay there anymore. I packed a small bag, just essentials, my ID, some cash, my phone, and left the house on foot. I didn't even lock the door. I just wanted to get away. I went straight to Lena's apartment. She lived across town, in a small building above a coffee shop. When she opened the door and saw my pale face, she didn't even ask questions. She just pulled me into a hug. Oh my God, Emma. What happened? He knows, I whispered. Daniel knows I went to the warehouse. He left a note. Her eyes widened. You need to go to the police. I can't. Not yet. I don't even know what to tell them. Because how do you walk into a police station and say, my husband might be cheating, smuggling something, and possibly planning to hurt me? But I don't have proof yet. I sat on her couch, shaking. There's something bigger going on, Lena. That warehouse, the photos, those messages, it's not just about an affair. He's involved in something dangerous. She nodded slowly. Then we'll find out what it is. But you're not going back to that house, understand? I stayed at her place that night. But around midnight, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I hesitated before answering. Hello? There was a pause. Then a low male voice said, MRS. Carter? Yes. Who's this? Listen carefully. You need to stop digging into Daniel's business. You're putting yourself in danger. My blood ran cold. Who are you? The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my heart pounding. I showed Lena the number. It wasn't Daniel's, but I had a gut feeling it was connected to him. The next morning, I decided to go back home, just for a few minutes, to grab more of my things and maybe check if Daniel had returned. Lena begged me not to, but I promised to be quick. When I got there, his SUV was parked outside. My stomach twisted. I stepped quietly inside. The house was eerily calm. Daniel? I called out softly. No answer. Then I noticed something strange. The study door, locked the last time I'd seen it, was wide open. I walked inside. The folder I'd seen before was gone. In its place, there was a small metal box on the desk, left slightly open. Inside was a USB drive. Curiosity got the better of me. I slipped it into my pocket, just as I heard the sound of footsteps behind me. Emma. I froze. His voice. Slowly, I turned around. Daniel stood in the doorway, his eyes dark, unreadable. He looked different, tired, tense, maybe even scared. What are you doing here? He asked quietly. I came to get some clothes, I lied. You took my car. I had to, he said. You shouldn't have gone there, Emma. Why? What's in that warehouse, Daniel? What are you hiding from me? He didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer. His jaw clenched. You wouldn't understand. Then make me understand, I snapped. Because right now, all I know is my husband has been lying to me, meeting some woman in hotels, and sneaking around like a criminal. His face darkened. It's not what you think. Then what is it? He exhaled sharply, dragging a hand through his hair. Fine. You want the truth? The woman you saw, R, is not my mistress. She's an undercover agent. I blinked. What? He nodded, his voice low. I've been working with her. There's a federal investigation into a smuggling ring operating through construction firms. I was approached months ago to help gather evidence. The shipments you saw in those messages are shipments of stolen materials, industrial parts, electronics, sometimes even weapons. I'm supposed to expose them. I just stared, stunned. That's insane. You expect me to believe that? He sighed. I couldn't tell you, Emma. It would have put you in danger. My mind spun. Could this actually be true? Was he lying to protect me, or just lying to cover his tracks again? If that's true, I said slowly, then why the texts? The hotels? The secrecy? Because we had to make it look real, he said. The people we're investigating are watching. If they thought I was talking to law enforcement, they'd come after us both. It sounded too perfect, too convenient. Before I could respond, there was a sudden bang on the front door. Both of us froze. Daniel's expression changed instantly, from defensive to alert. Get down, he whispered. What? Emma, get down, he hissed. He reached for the drawer under his desk and pulled out a gun. My heart stopped. Daniel, what are you? Stay quiet, he said, his voice shaking slightly. The banging came again, louder this time. Then, silence. Daniel slowly moved toward the hallway, gun raised. I stayed behind, clutching the desk, trying not to breathe. Every sound made me jump. Then I heard the door creak open. Heavy footsteps entered. Two voices. Male. Check the study. One said. I panicked. Whoever they weren't cops. I could tell by their tone. Daniel whispered. Go. Out the back. I shook my head. Not without you. Now, Emma, go. I ran through the kitchen, my pulse roaring in my ears. Behind me, I heard shouting. Then, a gunshot. I screamed. I didn't look back. I bolted out the back door, through the yard, across the fence, and into the woods behind our property. My lungs burned, my legs trembling. But I didn't stop until I was far enough to collapse against a tree. Tears blurred my vision. What was happening to my life? A few minutes later, I heard another car engine start, Daniel's SUV. Tires screeched. More gunfire followed. Then silence again. When I finally made it back to the road, I saw black smoke rising above the trees. My house was on fire, and Daniel was gone. As I stared at the flames devouring everything I once called home, I realized one horrifying truth. Whether Daniel had been lying or telling the truth, I was now part of whatever deadly game he'd been playing. And the people behind it weren't done with me yet. The flames rose high into the night sky, painting everything orange and red. My house, our house, was gone. I stood across the street, frozen, as firefighters struggled to contain the blaze. The smell of smoke filled my lungs, but I barely noticed. My entire world had collapsed in a matter of hours. And Daniel, I didn't know if he was alive or dead. The police arrived shortly after, asking questions I couldn't answer. How did the fire start? Was anyone inside? Do you have enemies? Enemies. The word echoed in my mind. A few days ago, I would have said no. Now, I wasn't so sure. They found my fingerprints all over the study. Of course they did. I'd been there. I tried to explain that I was only trying to find my husband, that he'd been acting strange, that he'd been followed, but the officer just gave me that look. The kind reserved for people who sound like they've lost their minds. Lena came to get me from the station later that night. She hugged me so tightly, I almost cried again. Emma, you can stay with me for as long as you need. You're safe now, okay? But I wasn't safe. I knew it. As soon as we got back to her apartment, I pulled the USB drive from my pocket. I hadn't told the police about it. I didn't trust anyone yet. Lena frowned. What's that? Something I found in Daniel's study. Maybe it'll tell us the truth. We plugged it into her laptop. It took a moment to load. But when it did, my breath caught. There were files. Dozens of them. Photos, spreadsheets, and scanned documents labeled with company names and numbers. One folder was titled Blackwood Imports. When I opened it, I saw shipment logs, lists of crates, dates, and coded locations. And one document marked confidential caught my eye. It read, Project Meridian. Operatives assigned. D. Carter, R. Hayes. Shipment #29. Arrival delayed due to internal breach. Target, high-value components. Use discretion. Threat level, red. My stomach flipped. D. Carter. That was Daniel. And R. Hayes. That must have been R. The woman I thought he was cheating with. Oh my God. I whispered. He was telling the truth. Lena leaned closer. Emma, this looks like government stuff. Are you sure you should even have this? I don't know. But if what he said is real, someone set him up. Maybe those men who came to the house. They were part of this Project Meridian. Maybe they were trying to silence him. Just then, the laptop screen flickered. A pop-up appeared. Unauthorized access detected. This device will be traced. Lena gasped. Emma, turn it off. I yanked the USB out and shut the laptop, my heart hammering. They're watching. Whoever's behind this knows we saw something. We both sat there in stunned silence for a moment, listening to the hum of the fridge and the pounding of my heartbeat. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Lena shook her head. Don't answer it. But I did. Emma. It was Daniel's voice. Daniel? Oh my God, where are you? Listen to me, he said quickly. Don't go to the police. Don't talk to anyone about the files. Where are you? I repeated, tears rising in my eyes. I can't say. They're watching everything. The fire wasn't an accident. They wanted to erase the evidence, and me with it. Who are they? He hesitated. Blackwood, the company I was investigating. They're not just a construction supplier, they're laundering money and moving weapons through international contracts. I could barely process what I was hearing. Daniel, you need to come in. We can go to the FBI or something. No, he interrupted sharply. You don't understand. There's a mole in law enforcement. That's why I had to keep you in the dark. I didn't want you to get dragged into this. Too late for that. Daniel, I said, my voice breaking. I thought you were cheating on me. I thought you were lying to me. There was silence on the line for a moment. Then he said softly, I was lying, but not about that. I did everything I could to protect you. A noise came through the line, shouting, maybe a car door slamming. Daniel? They found me, he whispered. Emma, listen. There's a man named Agent Walters. He's the only one you can trust. He'll find you. Give him the drive. Don't trust anyone else. Daniel, I shouted. Where are you? But the line went dead. I stood there, shaking. The phone pressed against my ear long after the call ended. Lena whispered, Was that really him? I nodded weakly. They're trying to kill him. We both jumped as someone knocked on the door. My heart leapt into my throat. Who is it? A deep voice answered. FBI. Open up. Lena and I looked at each other. Do you think it's Agent Walters? She whispered. We hesitated for a long moment. Then I opened the door. Two men stood there, both wearing dark suits. One flashed a badge. Agent Matthews, FBI. We're looking for Emma Carter. That's me, I said nervously. He gave me a polite but tight smile. We're aware of your husband's situation. We need to ask you a few questions. Do you know where he is? I asked immediately. I'm afraid that's classified, he said. But we need to ensure your safety. You'll need to come with us. Something about his tone didn't sit right. Too smooth. Too rehearsed. Lena whispered. Emma, wait. Who sent you? I asked. Was it Agent Walters? The taller man frowned. Who? My stomach dropped. That was all I needed to hear. I slammed the door and locked it. They're not real FBI, I shouted. The men pounded on the door, shouting my name. Lena screamed. I grabbed the USB and my phone and ran to the back exit. We fled down the stairwell and out into the alley. I could hear footsteps behind us, echoing closer. Emma, stop, one of them yelled. We darted into the maze of side streets, hearts racing, lungs burning. The city lights blurred around us as we ran. He yanked open a back exit, leading us into a narrow tunnel that connected to the surface. The three of us ran, adrenaline surging through my veins. Behind us, I could hear shouting and the clatter of metal. Our pursuers were close. When we burst out into the night, we were behind an old warehouse district. Walters led us to a black SUV parked in the shadows. Get in, he said. We jumped inside, and he gunned the engine. Tires screeched as we sped down the empty street. Lena clutched my hand. Emma, what is happening? This feels like a movie. I couldn't even answer. My mind was spinning. Only a few days ago, my biggest worry had been my husband's loyalty. Now I was running for my life from men with guns and secrets. After several tense minutes, Walters finally slowed down. We're heading to a safe house outside the city. No one will find us there. I stared out the window, my heart still pounding. Agent Walters. Is Daniel really alive? He nodded. He's in federal custody for his own protection. He did the right thing, Emma. He turned over information months ago, but the operation was compromised. Blackwood has infiltrated several agencies. That's why he couldn't tell you anything. Tears filled my eyes. I thought he was cheating on me. I hated him for it. Walters looked at me in the rearview mirror. He let you hate him. It was the only way to keep you safe. I turned to Lena, who was quietly crying beside me. He risked everything, I whispered. Just as I began to feel a flicker of hope, a loud bang shattered the silence. The SUV swerved violently. Hold on, Walters shouted. A black sedan appeared in the side mirror, its headlights flashing. Bullets ripped through the back window. I screamed as glass shattered around us. Walters swerved again, taking a sharp turn down a deserted road. They've got backup, he shouted. Get down. The car jolted and fishtailed, skidding onto a dirt path. The sedan followed, engines roaring. Walters reached for his gun and handed it to me. If they get close, shoot the tires. I've never fired a gun, I stammered. Then start learning fast. My hands trembled as I rolled the window halfway down. The cold air hit my face. I aimed shackily at the approaching car. My first shot missed completely. The second hit the ground. Emma, Walters shouted. Front left tire. I took a deep breath, aimed again, and squeezed the trigger. The gun kicked hard, but this time I hit it. The sedan swerved, losing control, and slammed into a tree. We kept driving until the headlights disappeared behind us. Silence filled the car. My ears rang. My hands shook. Lena was sobbing quietly. Walters finally exhaled. You did good. He pulled into an abandoned farmhouse miles outside the city and parked behind a shed. We'll stay here until morning, he said. Then we go to the federal office. Once the data from that drive is decrypted, this whole thing will be over. Inside the farmhouse, everything was dark and dusty. We sat in the living room, lit only by a single lamp. Walter started scanning the USB on his laptop, typing furiously. I sat there in silence, staring at my hands, until my phone buzzed one last time. It was a message from Daniel. I'm sorry, Emma, for everything. If Walters is with you, you're safe now. Don't trust anyone else. I love you. Tears blurred my vision. I typed back, but before I could hit send, Walters said, It's done. He turned the laptop toward us. On the screen was a list of names, politicians, CEOs, and even law enforcement officials connected to Blackwood Imports. People I'd seen on the news, smiling, shaking hands. This is it, Walters said. Proof of a global trafficking network. Daniel wasn't just helping. He was the whistleblower. Lena covered her mouth. They'll kill him for this. Walters nodded grimly. Unless we release it first. He inserted a secure drive and began transferring the data. But before it finished, we heard a noise outside, the faint crunch of gravel under tires. Walters's face went pale. They found us. Again? I whispered. He grabbed the laptop and thrust it into my hands. Go out the back. There's a car behind the barn. Take it and drive east until you hit Route 9. Don't stop for anyone. What about you? I'll hold them off. No, I shouted. Come with us. He shook his head. You have the evidence. That's what matters now. The gunfire started again before I could argue. Lena screamed. Walter shoved us toward the back door. We ran, hearts pounding, as bullets cracked through the walls. By the time we reached the car, smoke was rising from the farmhouse. I could see Walters fighting, shadows moving, flashes of light. But then everything went silent. Lena was sobbing beside me. Emma, we can't leave him. I started the car, tears streaming down my face. We don't have a choice. We drove off into the night, leaving the burning farmhouse behind. The USB was still in my hand, the only proof of everything Daniel had risked his life for. Hours later, as the first light of dawn broke across the horizon, I finally stopped on the side of an empty road. Lena was asleep in the seat beside me, exhausted. I opened my phone one last time. There was another message waiting. From Daniel. It's over now. They'll come for you again. But don't be afraid. You're stronger than you think. Keep the truth alive. That was the last message I ever got from him. His number stopped working after that day. I turned the USB drive over in my hand, realizing it wasn't just evidence. It was Daniel's legacy. The reason he'd lied. The reason he'd let me hate him. He hadn't betrayed me. He'd saved me. And as the sun rose, I whispered to myself, this isn't the end. It's only the beginning. End.